Hi, my name is Lisa Hannum, and I'm the managing editor at moneysense.ca. And in a few seconds, we'll be chatting with our friends from Midweek 30. So, we're going to be talking about money rules. Today, we're going to be talking about Midweek 30, which is your program that of weekly events and chatting about money and finance. And we're also going to be chatting about money rules and what they are and do we even need them. So why don't you start off first by telling me about Midweek 30 and why you started this event series?
So Midweek 30 was born last year, just around the time that COVID came to town. And I had purchased a house at the end of the year before, and I had just taken ownership and was planning a bunch of renovations when COVID hit. I lost my job, and I was kind of thrown into this financial tangle that I didn't quite know what to do with. And I was talking to Renee about it. And I thought, what I really need is a mentor, like somebody who's done this before to help me out. Like, where can we find this advice? And so we started talking about it and kind of figured that, we can find people from the industry who are experts to give the advice that we need and that we want. And that's how we started it.
Yeah, the idea, because money kind of underpins everything in life. And, Laura and I are educated women who know how to ask for help. But we thought, why don't we create something intimate and we talk about various subjects? When we were talking about it, it was kind of like the handbook you don't get when you become an adult.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the motivation behind Midweek 30.
Amazing. And so you're both journalists as well.
I've been a personal finance writer for over a decade, and I've also written for Money Sense. We're talking about the new money rules with a certified personal finance advisor, Alexandra Macqueen, and we're going to talk about what are the new money rules and should we throw out the old rules, because how people are approaching and treating money was changing before the pandemic, but I think the pandemic has really accelerated how we think about money now, especially for younger Gen X's, Gen Z's, millennials. The rules that came about money were written before we were born.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're really applicable now.
What are some of the typical rules around money that we're following?
So one of them is that whole, save 10% of your income. And it's very generic, it's very broad, but I think it's also, you have to understand that if you are a white man and you have a steady income, you can save just 10% of your income and be fine. But if you are a woman or somebody who identifies as female, you have to save more than that, because you are going to be you may be spending time outside of the workforce. You might be ill, childcare reasons, and you may stay out of the workforce for a number of years, or you might go back part-time, spending more time out of the workforce on elder care as well. And saving 10% of your income is not going to cut it. And keep in mind that women overall, and especially racialized women, Indigenous women, and disabled women also get paid less,
Yeah.
right? And that more Canadian female seniors are in poverty as well. So that's one of the rules that I think we should throw out. And I know, Laura, you had a couple what we were talking about when we pulled this together.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that the old money rules dictate, they're based on the idea that you're going to have the same job, that you're going to send in pay for a set amount of time, and then you're going to retire and everything will be great. And the landscape for work just doesn't look like that anymore. You've got like a growing gig economy. People change careers 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times in their lifetime. Something nobody told me was that if a recession comes and you work in a creative industry, there's a very good chance you'll lose your job, or, you'll get cut or something like that. So this instability is now built into the system, and none of the old money rules really take that into account.
I feel like you answered this, but why don't they apply today? And that because our lifestyles have changed and our financial needs have changed, generally speaking.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, both Laura and I are self-employed, and I'll tell you something, when I graduated from journalism school, this was not the route that I pictured taking, and it's the route that I took, and I'm making it work for me. But it's one of those situations where, you know what, everything has gone up, housing has gone up in almost all the major Canadian cities, and now we're seeing the smaller cities that are outside the major Canadian cities now because people are moving out. But also what's been happening is wages haven't really been going up. And instead there's that embracing of hustle culture, which if that is something you want to do, absolutely, I am here for that. But you know what? We should be making income without having to have 50 side hustles to try and make your rent.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely.
What about yourselves personally? Are there any sort of money rules that you're reevaluating?
For myself personally, again, I'm trying to save more than 10%. And a lot of that is because I am single, happily single, and I only have one income. I can't rely on a partner income to supplement anything that I want to do. So I have to be very focused on that. And I will tell you something, I wish I had started investing earlier when I was in maybe my late 20s versus when I started investing in my 30s. And I wish there was something out there at the time that was telling me that, you know, how to invest. And I don't mean becoming a day trader. I mean, just putting your money in an index fund, not mutual funds, not that, but putting it in an index fund and just letting it ride out, because, you know, that extra 10 plus years would have made a huge difference for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, on my end of things, the new money rules for me are making me think about what I'm going to do to retire and how I'm going to do that, and the possibility that I'm going to have to keep working for the rest of my life. And if that's the case, then what skills do I need to learn so that I can stay employed in my 60s, 70s? Because the chances of me being able to continue to be employed in the type of work that I do now at those ages is very slim. So for me, it's about considering, first of all, how can I save for that? And second of all, what kind of assumptions am I going to have to work on to make sure that I'm taken care of in my old age?
I love the concept of your next talk about money rules. And so what do you think about the word rule itself? Are rules meant to be broken?
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, I like the word rules because I like to know kind of like what the box is and then how I can break out of that box. And, you know, if I need to break out of that box, I'm not a big fan of being told what I have to do, because what I find is when you look at what underpins that rule, it's not often about me. I am, you know, I am a single racialized woman, and, you know, I do well, relatively speaking, but, you know, statistically, people who look like me get underpaid for no other reason than statistically, people like me who look like me get underpaid. So there was this really great column in Wealth Simple about if you can personal finance yourself out of systemic racism. And, you know, that is something that sits in the back of my mind whenever I talk about personal finance. So I like knowing the rules so I can counteract them.
Amazing.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, the idea that there are money rules tells me that certain people know the rules and other people don't, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's kind of the way it is. Like, there's a whole system around finance, and you do have to learn it, and you have to learn the system to be able to know which rules you can break, right? So for me, it's just knowing the rules is an important education, and it's one that I left for way too long. I had no idea for the longest time. And now I'm learning, and I'm learning more, and I'm like, wow, you know, it really is about knowing the rules, and then you can break them and make it work for you.
It is definitely a very timely topic. So I love that you guys chatted with me today. What should our viewers know about Midweek 30 and how they can get involved?
Are short, they're sweet, they're to the point, and they're actionable. You're going to learn something when you come to them. And we keep the groups small so that everybody has a chance to answer and ask questions of the expert. So we keep it small, we keep it intimate, and we keep it actionable. And if people want to join us, just, you know, send us an email at themidweek30@gmail.com. We'll add you to our newsletter, and that's where we announce our upcoming events. And yeah, we'd love to have you.
Amazing.
Absolutely. Yes.
Is there anything else you guys wanted to add?
Money underpins a lot of the major decisions that we do. So we take that approach, but it's not just about money. We talk about life in general. You know, the world is changing. Now everybody's talking about emergency funds, and we really want to help people, including ourselves, with the new handbook, whatever that looks like. We're writing it right now.
Amazing. Well, thank you both so much for your time. It's been wonderful chatting with you.
Hello and welcome everyone to the Midweek 30. My name is Renee and this is my co-founder Laura. Tonight we are going to learn about money rules, what we should throw out, what we should consider, considering we're all living in unprecedented times, like you haven't heard that before.
We should all save 10% of our income.
Oh yes.
And then you said, as women, we should actually save more. I feel like I'm like rule dumb. I didn't know there were any rules other than I would just put whatever I didn't notice away into stuff. And so I didn't even know about the 10%. So now I'm like, well, what is it then?
Well, if you're working and you're paying into CPP, you're already saving 10%. You put in 4.95%, and your employer, or also you, if you're self-employed, puts in another 5%. So that's 10%. So I was peeved at that article because I thought it wasn't specific enough. I actually don't love those rules like 10%. I mean, if you want to pick a number, 10% is better than 0% and it's better than 5%. But there is no one specific number that's going to be accurate and consistent across your entire life, right? So when you're 24 years old and you have student loan debt and you're trying to get established, you probably are going to dis-save, as in you're borrowing. Maybe you borrowed for student loans, you're borrowing for a mortgage, but that's all premised on, I'll get myself established and then later on I'll start to save. And then maybe when I'm saving later on, maybe I need to save 15% or 20%. But if you have a pension, that's savings as well.